Welcome to the Real World. My name's Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World YouTube channel. If you're a movie fan, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. We do all kinds of Blu-ray and 4K reviews, review new movies in theaters, on streaming, all kinds of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. If you're a movie fan, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. Today, episode 63 of the Real World podcast, we're talking about our favorite mystery movies. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Real World podcast. Again, make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. Talking about mystery movies today, our top 5 favorites. I've got a very special guest joining us a little bit later in the podcast, but we're going to kick things off as we usually do with some movie news. Rotten Tomatoes is in controversy. They have revealed recently that a public relations firm has been paying off critics for positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes to boost their scores. Hopefully, this will be the end of Rotten Tomatoes. I am not a fan of the website. Kind of just feeds into that whole idea that movies are either good or bad. It's fresh or rotten, when the truth is usually somewhere in between. So not been a fan of this website since it's been around. And this is one of the reasons as well, is because, obviously critics can be paid off to give a positive or negative review. And that's exactly what's been happening over the past several years. I don't know how long Rotten Tomatoes is going to be around after this. Hopefully people stop paying attention to that so much and just go into movies, watch them themselves, or find critics that they agree with and use those as their kind of barometer for whether they should go see a movie or not, regardless of whether someone thinks it's good or bad. So yeah, very interesting development there. In the world of Star Wars, The Galaxy Far, Far Away is bringing Lando to the big screen. It was originally slated to be a series, but now Lando will be a movie. It's being written by Donald and Stephen Glover, brother duo. Donald, of course, who plays Lando in the Solo film, will be returning to the role in this film. We don't know when it's set. We don't know what it's about. We don't have any details other than the fact that these two guys are writing the movie. Now, again, it was originally announced as a series on Disney Plus, will now be a theatrically released film, which I think is a great move. I'm a bigger fan of the big budget kind of theatrical experience. I think they've been doing a great job with their streaming series, but I think Lando is one that kind of begs a movie. Staying in the realm of Disney Plus, Werewolf by Night is going to get a colorized version in October. On October 20th, you can stream the color version of Marvel's first black and white special presentation, which was released last Halloween. The black and white version, of course, will still be available. Really big fan of black and white, big fan of classic cinema. So this is cool, though, that they get to have a colorized version of that special. It's basically a feature film, about an hour long, a little under an hour long. And Michael Giacchino, the composer, this was his directorial debut, which was really cool. So get a different flavor in the Marvel universe, kind of horror flavor, kind of harkens back to the old classic monster movies. Had a blast with it. So check it out on Disney Plus, and it's coming to Hulu as well. In the realm of comic books, staying in that kind of category here, in that genre, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom revealed the first trailer this week. So very excited to see that film, which is set to come out in December. We get big scale action, more mythology. He's got a new suit. Orm is back. Black Manta is back. And of course, we have the Aqua Baby, which I'm very excited about. There's some comic book storylines that could include that character. Not sure how they're going to utilize that character, but Nicole Kidman is back as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It looks like more of the same awesome, epic craziness that we got in the first film. The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar debuted its first teaser trailer. This is a short film from Wes Anderson based on a Roald Dahl novel. It is set to debut on Netflix September 27th. So coming up very soon. Very excited to see these worlds combine. He's, of course, adapted this author before with Fantastic Mr. Fox. He's very well suited to this author's style. I feel like it works really well hand in hand. So definitely looking forward to that. Stars Benedict Cumberbatch, and again, debuts on Netflix September 27th. Well, that's it for movie news. Now we're going to jump into our main topic, which is mystery movies, our top five of all time. This is kind of a big one. So I brought in Josh to help us out. How you doing, man?
Doing well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, we just want to talk first about what a mystery movie is. First of all, we're doing this because A Haunting in Venice is now in theaters, the latest Kenneth Branagh film based on the Agatha Christie kind of works. And so we wanted to dive into this subject since that's in theaters now. Mystery movies, they're pretty simple. I mean, the kind of definition I'm looking at is mystery movies focus on characters trying to solve a crime. That's kind of the bare bones essence of what we're kind of looking at. There are different types of mystery movies out there that necessarily don't involve a crime, but that's kind of what I geared mine more towards. Detective movies, murder mysteries, a lot of noir films deal with this kind of subject matter. So that's kind of how I was looking at this. Did you have a specific way you went into this, Josh?
Yeah, kind of along the same lines. Someone trying to solve a crime. I was trying to stay more with like the ones where the audience didn't know the answer either. However, there's a couple twists in there, and I did include some that, at least one, I think that the audience knows the answer for, so ahead of time.
Gotcha. Yeah, they ask a lot of questions. Who done it? Why done it? How they
Hmm.
done it? All these different kind of questions that
Where Gamora?
right, exactly. So yeah, but justice and vengeance obviously are big themes here typically, and so we get a lot of interesting themes as well, which I really enjoy. So, all right, I think we're ready to jump into our honorable mentions. Here we go. All right, so kicking off these honorable mentions here with one that I just got to watch this week, and this is kind of a parody of these types of movies. It's called Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. It stars Steve Martin and it's directed by
Ah,
Carl Reiner, who also is in the film. It's really fun, especially if you're as familiar as I am with classic noir film, black and white. It's all shot in black and white. It's very much like he's a private investigator investigating this murder, and they just have a lot of fun with that whole premise. It's really funny. It came out back in the 80s, like 1982.
oh,
So definitely worth seeking out if you haven't seen that one. One that I had to mention by Alfred Hitchcock is The Lady Vanishes. And I mentioned this, I think, last week on the podcast or the week before. This is a movie about a lady on a train who disappears and the kind of investigation that goes into that. It's a lot of fun. This was made back in 38. So this is one of his earlier movies, right,
mm,
but before he came over to America. So it's a British film. So I had to bring that one up. Maltese Falcon is kind of the classic film noir, one of my favorites ever made. John Huston's directorial debut. I think I talked about this on our directorial debut podcast that we did a while back. Humphrey Bogart made his kind of star-making turn in this film. A lot of good actors in that one. So that's definitely a classic. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of a must-see. And then I'll also talk about another bogey one, which is The Big Sleep, which he starred in with Lauren Bacall, who he ended up marrying. They did
oh
several
wow.
films together, and this is one of their better ones for sure. It's really, really good, really well shot and directed. So definitely, again, worth checking out. And then just a couple more of classics here I wanted to talk about. One is Sunset Boulevard. This was very close to making it in my top five. One of my favorite movies ever, especially out of the 50s. It's a really, really good film. It starts off with the main character dead, and you kind of have to go back and flashbacks find out how he died, basically.
Oh
So
wow.
it's a really fun, interesting film. Billy Wilder wrote and directed it. It's a really good film. And then the other one is filmed by Orson Welles, who of course we know directed Citizen Kane. This is another one of his great films called Touch of Evil. This stars Charlton Heston
Mm,
alongside Orson Welles and Janet Leigh. Really, really good, mystery crime film. Takes place mostly south of the border in Mexico, so it's a kind of a unique
mm.
setting there. But definitely worth checking out. This Blu-ray edition has three versions of the movie because it's one of those situations where the studio came in and didn't listen to the director and kind of cut it their own way. So they've
Yeah,
reconstructed it over time, and so there's a preview version, a theatrical version, and a reconstruction version. So you can watch all
wow.
three and kind of get your different perspectives on kind of the kind of original intent. But those are my first few I wanted to mention. Josh, why don't you give us some of yours?
I had Memento on there, Shutter Island. It was on Disney Plus. They took it down for some reason, but Timmy Failure, Mistakes Are Made, which is
Oh,
based
that was
on the
fun.
book. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really liked that one. That one's really charming. The Great Mouse Detective. That was one of my
Hmm.
favorites as a kid.
Sure.
And then Jack Reacher was another one I had on there as well. That's not necessarily like strictly a mystery movie. That's not the tone anyway, but it is
Right.
a cop trying to solve a crime. So I threw it on there.
Yeah, I pulled it out
Yeah,
because I thought the
you had that
same
one on there
thing.
too?
Yeah, it wasn't, it didn't not, it's not one of the ones that first popped into my head, but as I was
Hmm.
kind of researching, I was like, oh yeah, that does start like with an assassination. He's trying to investigate it and figure out who really did it. So yeah, I would definitely count it. But it does have, more action in it. It's kind of more of an action thriller
Hmm.
almost. But yeah, definitely a quality film. Christopher McQuarrie, who now does the Mission Impossible movies. This is
Yes.
the first one he did with Tom Cruise. So yeah, definitely worth a watch.
Did you have any
Um,
other ones?
yeah, I do have a few more. So David Fincher, is a guy that does a lot of these. Seven is obviously a movie that he's well known for, as well as Zodiac, which is based on a true story.
Mm,
Both of those, I think, are excellent mystery films. Very dark and gritty and heavy subject matter and grisly
yeah.
imagery, but definitely are well-made films. One that I've got on the background, going back to more of a comedy, is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a lot of
Ah,
fun. A kind of again, this cartoon character gets framed for murder, and a live action actor has to investigate. It's just such a wonderful idea and so well executed.
yeah.
Just incredible. The blending of animation and live action is really amazing to watch. So I had to bring that up. Wind River is one that I enjoyed
Mm,
by Taylor Sheridan with Jeremy Renner. Fargo is one by the Coen brothers that I think is really good as well. Really like Witness. This was really close to making it in my top five.
mm,
Harrison Ford film where he's a detective that goes undercover in an Amish community to solve a murder case. Very, very well made. Really like that film. There's also a film called LA Confidential, which I really like. This is sort of a throwback to that kind of 50s noir era, but it was made in the 90s. So you've got guys like Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce and Danny DeVito, really great actors in here.
mm.
Did a great job making this movie. And then wanted to also mention a couple of sci-fi ones. I was trying to kind of put sci-fi aside, but sci-fi movies that blend mysteries like Blade Runner and Minority Report, I think, are both excellent kind of mystery films that all take place in the
Hmm.
future and with all this futuristic technology, but they do follow detectives. They're definitely ones I considered. I just decided to kind of set those aside for future. I'm sure we're going to do tons of sci-fi podcasts in the future. So we're always talking sci-fi. So I decided to just set those aside. Just two more that I wanted to mention.
Hmm.
Well, actually three. Two by the same director. Rian Johnson did Knives Out, of course, which is one of his more popular movies. And then before this, his first film was called Brick. Brick is another kind of noir mystery film, but it all takes place in high school. It's all with like teenagers. So it's a low
Hmm.
budget film, but it's very, very well made. So highly recommend Brick if you haven't seen it. Knives Out, of course, is one of the best modern murder
Oh
mystery
yeah.
movies. Daniel Craig's great in it. Ana de Armas, the cast is just incredible. So definitely considered this. Was very, very close to making it in there. And then the other one was Sherlock Holmes. I think Sherlock Holmes
Okay.
is a great modern mystery movie. Again, it blends in some great action sequences. Guy Ritchie's, style is on full display. His use of
Hmm.
slow mo and the way he gets into the character's head and everything. Robert Downey Jr. did a great job, as did Jude Law as Watson, two characters that
Hmm.
have been around for so long now, and they did just a really good modern interpretation of the characters without losing what makes the characters great about the original
Yeah.
stories, but just modernized it in a really fun way on screen. So that's it. That's all I had for honorable mentions. Give me the rest of yours, Josh.
You mentioned Knives Out and Brick. They're on my list as well. But I also have Glass Onion on there.
Yeah,
Um, a TV movie, which I know we were including on like the main five, but
right.
it's called Vanishing Act,
Hmm.
and you can't find it anywhere except like some random YouTube link, but
Okay.
which is a real shame. But
Yeah.
it's definitely one of those movies you don't want to know anything about. You just want to
Hmm.
start it.
Hmm.
So if you find it, great.
Cool.
Unfortunately, it hasn't been re-released for streaming or anything, but
Gotcha.
or even DVD aside from like eBay. But
Hmm.
then the other two I had are Batman films. One of them almost made it, The Batman, and then Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned both of those. Mask of the Phantasm is definitely one I considered as well. All right, well, that's it for honorable mentions. Now we're ready to jump into our top five mystery movies. Josh, why don't you kick us off?
All right, so at number five, I have the 2022 version of Death on the Nile. That is
Oh,
the second outing of Kenneth Branagh as I'm going to butcher it here, but Hercule Poirot.
yep.
You kind of say the end real fast.
Nailed it.
I find both the book comparing this and then Murder on the Orient Express, the first one he did. I didn't get a chance to see the newest one yet, but just comparing the first two, I think both it's the same in both the case of the movie and the book.
Mm,
I found Death on the Nile to be well, I've read maybe a handful of Christie, and this one just blew me away. Not only the amount of twists and different things going on that you don't expect, um, but also just in the book, especially, there's some really good biblically themed discussions,
mm.
like justice and right and wrong and love and all this stuff. And it was I was not expecting that. It was
Wow,
really
that's
profound.
cool.
And you see the snippets of it that made it into the movie. The detective Hercules conversation with Jackie at one point and talks about God and the will of God. And so there's snippets of it that made it in. But I think this movie is superior to the previous one. I think it takes everything that the first one did right and then just like elevates it to the next level. For example, the opening scene with black and white, I was blown away by that scene. It's not in the book, which so I was definitely not expecting it. Just seeing like a young Hercule in World War One, and then you think you're like, wait, that kind of looks like him. Is that him? And then you realize it's not. Anyway, but yeah, just the visuals, like that scene is really like the black and white just makes it look astoundingly amazing. That was really cool. Yeah, the visuals are incredible. I really like Book Book his character,
Yeah.
which I had forgotten that he was in the first movie. And they kind of like reference it as well. But yeah, I feel like he was the heart of the film, and just everything that happens with his character, with him and Hercule is just, I think the emotional core of the film. The acting is phenomenal across the board. Especially what I really noticed this time was Kenneth Branagh's acting. He's also directing here, but like there's a couple scenes that, oh my gosh, like I don't know, like he should have been nominated or something. Like you just look and you see just the subtle acting in his face because it's a close up and he's just talking to somebody. You really believe the emotion that he's going through as a character in those moments, and that was breathtaking. I did not realize that before. Those are my thoughts on the movie. As far as the mystery element of it, this is definitely one. It mirrors the book where you don't know. You think there's so many twists and turns. Like it's not the simple, like the regular, I guess. Like, oh, there's a person that did this whole thing, and I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's not the usual. I'll say that.
Right, right. Now that's a great pick. I really like that movie. I do think it is superior to Murder on the Orient Express. Just visually, like you're saying, I feel like,
Hmm.
man, it just looks beautiful. I mean, just all the scenery, and they're on this boat, and it's great. It's great. So yeah, I'm glad you picked that one. Glad you brought that up. My wife is a huge Agatha Christie fan. I haven't read any of her work. I see you have the book you were talking about behind you.
Hmm.
So that's cool. But yeah, excellent, excellent film. Brana, like you're saying, yeah, he's so talented, both in front of and behind the camera. You know, we've talked about Thor before and other movies that he's made that I really enjoy. And yeah, pulling double duty like that has got to be difficult, but he makes it look effortless. I mean, it's really
Oh yeah.
incredible his performance and what he's able to achieve, you know, with the cinematography and direct. You know, it's another big ensemble cast, so he's dealing with so many
Hmm.
different actors, different moving parts, and yeah, those kind of movies are complex because you know you don't want to give anything away. You want it to be mysterious. You want the audience to go along for the ride, and yeah, he just does it
Hmm.
very, very well. So yeah, again, glad you picked that one. Good selection. All right, now we're gonna move on to my number five pick, which is another Alfred Hitchcock film. It's Rear Window. So
Mm.
I've got the box set here, the Essentials collection. These are five movies that Hitchcock made that are kind of his most popular, his most groundbreaking, and Rear Window is one of those. Rear Window is a film that stars Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly. And it's really all in one location. So this is what's unique about it. It's all set in an apartment kind of complex. So the window out of Jimmy Stewart's apartment looks onto the other apartments that are all around him. So he's kind of can see through the windows of his neighbors, and he kind of becomes obsessed with their lives, right? As he's in a cast, he's injured his leg, so he can't go anywhere. And so he kind of becomes obsessed with all these other things that are going on around him. He thinks he witnesses a murder and starts investigating himself. He doesn't have enough evidence to involve the police or anything, but he starts looking into these things, right? And Grace Kelly is, his girlfriend who's coming in and is like, you need to just forget about all this. And so it's an interesting back and forth between them. It's a very small cast. A lot of the
Mm.
cast don't even have dialogue because, again, they're so far away that you don't hear what they're
Oh
saying.
yeah.
So it's an interesting film that really doesn't have a lot of dialogue that's heard. It's very visual storytelling. It's all what the camera is doing, and the camera is typically from Jimmy Stewart's point of view. So you're looking out his window through his camera lens or his binoculars at what's going on around him. So just a very unique type of movie that is still able to grab your attention, even without the typical
Mhm.
things that we see in a lot of movies. It has a good musical score. It has great set and production design. Just looks really good. Good editing. Doesn't drag on for too long. I feel like that can be a problem with a lot of mystery movies. You can kind of feel like, okay, let's get on with this. You kind of just want to find out what's going on. But they do that very well here. Superb camera work, like I said, just the way
Mhm.
it moves and the it's pretty much all POV, most of the movie. So very interesting, very different. It's one that definitely stands out in the genre, I feel like, and so that's why I had to bring it up. So yeah, that's my first pick. Rear Window was released in 1954, and I think it still holds up.
Nice. Yes, it definitely does. I've only seen that one once, but it was
Okay.
definitely, I don't know. I feel like I need to watch it again
Yeah.
because first time I saw it, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of like so-so with it or like it's
Okay.
okay. But I know it's better than that. And I know I've just forgotten. But yeah, I know when I did see it, it was definitely one of those like I can remember, like you said, like the camera shots from his perspective, looking at everything,
Hmm.
and you're just kind of like, what's gonna happen? How is this gonna unfold? So
Right. Yeah, Hitchcock is known as the master of suspense, and I feel like he does that
mhm.
very well in that film.
Yeah, with someone who can't go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's kind of helpless, right? He can't do anything about it.
Mhm.
So yeah, interesting. All right, let's move on to your number four, Josh. What do you have?
Number four, I have another 2022 film called See How They Run.
Oh,
This
that one's really
was,
cool.
yeah, I just like this expression, I guess, is the my description of the movie.
Right.
It's just like a really fun, cool movie. It's not quite, I wouldn't say it's quite a spoof or a parody, but they definitely have that angle going where it's like, what's the tropes? What's the Agatha Christie murder mystery whodunit tropes? And how can we either turn it on its head or like poke fun or stuff like that, whether in a big way or a small way. And this is another, I don't know if it's quite, I guess you'd say it's an ensemble film. It doesn't quite happen in the same way where everyone's stuck in a room. Like kind of the detectives kind of go around to each of the people in their as they're living their own lives, trying to figure out what happened. And yeah, I really like the cast here, especially Saoirse Ronan does an excellent job, and Adrian Brody. I didn't know who he was really until I saw The Village. And so anytime I watch, I don't really like seek out movies that he's in, but anytime I watch a movie and he's in it, I'm like, oh, I like this guy. He's really good.
Yeah.
And I was a little disappointed that he's off right in the beginning.
Right.
But he does give a nice narration, and a lot of the characters are really cool to see. Just the relationship between the sort of like Sam Rockwell's Inspector Stoppard, who doesn't really care, and then Saoirse Ronan's Constable Stalker, who is like I want to do well, I want to do the right thing, and I want to progress in my career field. And just kind of seeing them both going back and forth. Sam Rockwell's experience mirrored or contrasted, I should say, with Saoirse Ronan's inexperience as an investigator, and they do a lot of fun gags with like jumping to conclusions. And he's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely a really charming whodunit is what I would say. And yeah, pretty much, and like everything comes full circle in the end, and you're just like, this is just great. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, me too. That was such a breath of fresh air when I saw it last year. We're actually just rewatching it the other night with someone who hadn't seen
Oh,
it.
nice.
And
Ah.
yeah, it's really good. It's really good. The cast is great. Their dynamic is just so great between
Mhm.
Rockwell and Ronan. They're so opposite, and yet, that makes for the best kind of odd couple pairing. And yeah,
Mhm.
great ensemble cast, great mystery, really fun the way it unfolds. Yeah, like you're saying, it does toe the line between being a serious murder mystery and a parody. It's like, it's like,
Yeah.
because it's very funny. Like the dialogue is very funny. The performances are kind of
Mhm.
over the top, but at the heart of it, there is like this serious kind of murder they're trying to figure out. And you do feel
Yeah.
moments of tension throughout for sure. But
Yeah.
they definitely balance that really well, which is hard to do. So yeah, I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of that one as well. All right. Moving on to my number four. It is the 1944 film noir Laura. Laura
Mm.
is made by a director named Otto Preminger, who went on to do other movies I like Fallen Angel and Anatomy of a Murder,
Mm.
which was another one I
I've heard of
considered.
that
That
one.
one's more of a courtroom drama, so I didn't
Mm.
select Anatomy of a Murder. I prefer Laura slightly, mostly because of the cinematography. I think is just
Mm.
beautiful. It's all black and white, and it looks really good. This is based on a novel by Vera Caspary, and it's basically about a detective who, while investigating the murder of a young woman, begins to fall in love with her. And so it's through all of
Oh,
these kind of
interesting.
stories that he's hearing about her that he, begins to care about her and cares more about finding out who did it and that kind of thing. So it's unique in that way. Dana Andrews stars as the detective. Gene Tierney plays the titular character Laura. It's also got Clifton Webb, who's great in this, and Vincent Price, who a lot of horror fans will know. He was popular back in the 70s, 80s, did a lot of different type of horror movies, very popular actor. This was nominated for 5 Oscars, including Best
Wow.
Director. It won Best Cinematography. So,
Okay.
yeah, big, big deal back when it came out. It's on the American Film Institute's Best Mystery Movies of All Time list, Roger Ebert's Greatest Movies of All Time list. So it's
Wow.
hailed as a great kind of example of the genre, and again, a unique entry in the genre just because of the subject matter and what the characters are going through. It's very unique. So yeah, it's a story of obsession. You find out all the people who were kind of obsessed with this woman and kind of her place in the society and in the city she
Mm.
lived in. It deals with lust. It deals with justice, obviously, just like most of the best film noirs. And what I like about noir so much, and this is the truest noir film on my list, is that not only are they black and white, which I love, that kind of lighting and just the way the camera moves and works, but they really deal thematically, like I said, with justice. And justice is always achieved, whether it's through man's judicial system and the detective finding out who it was and putting them in jail, or sometimes it's God's providence, right? It's just like some event happens to this person that they kind of get their comeuppance that way. So uh,
Yeah.
that's something that I really like about the genre and why I have many film noirs in my collection. But yeah, this one is definitely up there with some of the best. Maltese Falcon, it's up there with that one, I would say. So definitely worth checking out if you haven't. But yeah, that's my number four, Laura.
Nice. Nice.
All right, so that was my number four. Josh, give us your number three.
Number three is not a 2022 film. It is the second outing of Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock. Sherlock
Oh,
Holmes: A Game of Shadows.
okay.
Yeah, I actually like this one a little better than the first one, which may be because I saw it first.
Hmm.
I didn't see the first one until much later after that.
Gotcha.
But this is one where they know who done it beforehand. But in this case, they know the criminal mastermind, but what crime is he plotting? They're trying to
Hmm.
figure out what Moriarty is up to, and so that what crime is he going to commit, and that's what is kind of the unfolding there. But this one stood out to me, like right when we were talking about this, I'm like, okay, what are the mystery movies that I know off the top of my head that I'm just going to put down or whatever? And this was one of them that immediately was like, oh yeah, it's going to be on the list. um so rewatching it this time was really cool. I just I love Guy Ritchie's style. I don't think he gets enough credit as a director because every movie I've seen of his is a solid movie at the very least. He just had The Covenant release earlier this year, and that was an excellent film. And his visual style is so like I don't really know how to describe his visual and tonal style, but like when you see it, you know. And maybe you didn't know you were watching a Guy Ritchie film, and then you have scenes like the forest chase scene, and you're like, oh, okay, yes, I'm watching a Guy Ritchie film.
Right.
I think maybe the only one that I didn't care for that he did was Aladdin. And I
Mm,
don't know that I'd have to rewatch that again to see if his style leaks through there because tonally it's such a different, like it's not dark and gritty at all,
right. Right.
as a movie. So I'm not sure how that one fits into his filmography. But
Mm,
yeah, for this movie, like you were saying about the first one, I think is also true of this one. Both of Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, I think, are excellent here. And even though I would say probably my favorite version of Sherlock is the BBC with Benedict Cumberbatch, and that pairing there, I think this they do an excellent job here in this movie. And you still like I like them just as much as Holmes and as Watson, but yeah, the cinematography here is really the big standout for me, and the camera work, and not just in the forest chase scene, but throughout the whole film. Like I don't know how he does some of this stuff where like yeah, with the character the camera is looking at not moving and everything else is moving, which is so you see it especially in the chase scene in the forest. Like I have no idea how he accomplishes that. But yeah, the slow-mo here is used like perfectly, and then you got different ways that he does that. I won't like spoil it, but other characters maybe using that slow-mo effect. He does it, I think, at least three times in the film where Sherlock will go, okay, here's what's going to happen. And then he executes it. But a couple of the times it doesn't always happen that way. And I like it because you don't, it's not like, okay, here's what's going to happen in slow-mo and he's explaining it. And now we're just going to watch what he did again. Like it's
mm,
not like that would be boring.
yeah.
So instead, either like he changes it up or they just, I don't know, the camera work is just engaging enough that even when it does happen in the same way he thinks it's going to happen, it's still engaging and it still like has your attention. You're not like, okay, well, I just saw this. Why are we watching it again? Like
Yep.
you don't have that thought at all,
Right.
which was really cool. But yeah, that forest chase scene. Oh my gosh, that alone is worth watching the film for, and that is definitely the scene that has stuck with me since I first saw it years back.
Yeah.
Also really liked Zimmer's score.
Mm,
I felt like that. Like I was just for the past couple of days, I've just been like humming that, singing that tune, the dun 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 dun, dun, like
yeah.
just been in my head.
It's a great theme.
Yeah, it is. And I noticed because it is Zimmer. There's sometimes he uses those. I don't know what instrument it is, but like the Pirates of the Caribbean kind of
Yep.
I don't know if it's a drum or what it is, but there's that like low bass sound
Yeah.
that has Pirates vibes. And I
Right.
think it's in Gladiator as well, which was before Pirates, but
Sure.
it was also here a little bit. And I don't mind it because it's really cool. And then it
Right.
reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean. But
Yeah.
just I thought his whole score was both really fun and blended well with Guy Ritchie style.
Right.
But yeah, for me, the force chasing, the cinematography, and then just kind of like the unfolding mystery of like what's his crime and how is he going to pull it off, and you're trying to
Yeah.
figure it out, and how it involves other characters was really that's why it's on the list here, number three.
Excellent. Yeah, great selection. Yeah, I own both because they're both so good. I do lean a little towards the first one.
Hmm.
I maybe because I saw it first, I don't know. But I really like the mystery of it. I like, the investigation of the crime
Hmm.
scenes and all that stuff. It's just really fun. And Rachel McAdams, who isn't in the second one as much,
Yeah, that was
unfortunately.
one sad part. I didn't know until going back and seeing the first one. Actually, I think I saw this movie before I'd seen any of the BBC Sherlock, so I didn't really
Oh,
know
okay.
who her character was at all. And
Right.
I knew, and like everyone was upset that she's off in the beginning, and
Right.
I'm like, what's everyone upset for? What's
Right.
going on? And then
Yeah.
of course, after watching the BBC Sherlock, and oh, that's who Irene Adler is, and
Right.
then seeing the first movie, I was like, oh yeah, that is kind of upsetting that like I don't know if maybe it was a scheduling conflict she had or something that or they just decided to write her out. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It definitely gives it an emotional impact.
Yeah, early on
And
too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But anyways, yeah, both great films, great picks, definitely intriguing mysteries that are fun to watch unfold. So yeah, great selections. All right, now we're gonna jump into my number three pick, which is 1993's The Fugitive. The Fugitive, starring
Mm.
Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones. This one was directed by Andrew Davis. He directed movies like The Package, Under Siege. He also did Holes, which is one of my favorites growing up,
Oh wow.
and The Guardian. So he's a director that's been around for a while, directed some really good movies. This is based on a 1960s TV series from a guy named Roy Huggins, who created the show back then, ran for several years, was very popular. And so they decided to turn the TV series into a movie, and they did a great job. I've never seen the TV series, so I can't speak to its quality, but this movie is excellent. This garnered 7 Oscar nominations, including Best
Wow.
Picture. It won Best Supporting Actor for Tommy Lee Jones, who is just great here. The plot follows Dr. Richard Kimball, who is framed and sentenced for the murder of his wife, soon escapes custody, and must find the real killer. Like I said, great performance by Tommy Lee Jones, but Harrison Ford is equally good here. He has to deliver some difficult emotional scenes. He remains, charismatic as ever. You just love watching him do these things and figure these things out. He's not a detective, so he's kind of just a regular guy trying to.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy, but he's trying to figure out what really happened and how this happened and who did it and why and all this stuff. So it's very, very well made, very well written screenplay. Tommy Lee Jones, he's the U.S. Marshal who's coming after Harrison Ford. And so he's kind of just this ruthless character. Really, he doesn't care. Like, they have this scene where they meet and, Harrison Ford screams at him. He's like, I didn't kill my wife. And he says, I don't care. Like, he really doesn't. He's just like, I just have to take you in. I'm just doing my job. So it's a
Yeah.
really interesting dynamic between the two characters. Both are just so much fun to watch. It actually resulted in a spin-off movie Tommy Lee Jones got called U.S. Marshals, which is pretty good as well. It's not as good as Fugitive, but it's a pretty solid little movie. Tommy Lee Jones, I found out, celebrated his 77th birthday this week. So happy birthday, Mr.
Oh
Jones.
wow.
And I don't remember the last time he acted. It's been, I think, a few years, but he's just one of my favorites. I've liked him over the years, and from Men in Black to, I mean, he's done so many different types of films. I actually just watched this week another really good mystery film he did called Double Jeopardy, in which he
Yeah.
plays a similar type of character, which I really
It's
liked
in
as
the same
well.
universe.
Right, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, might as well be. And so yeah, this is just an exciting, very smart, emotionally engaging film. It's very believable. It's very grounded in reality.
Mhm.
And it's just a great watch. I've watched it a number of times over the years. James Newton Howard's score is superb throughout it. It can get very intense, it can get very emotional, it can get very quiet, very big. It's just got all these different dynamics to it, which is really fun. Very well shot and edited too. So yeah, definitely one I recommend if you haven't seen it. The Fugitive, great film.
It's funny because I actually just recently watched Double Jeopardy as well.
Oh,
And actually, real quick, Tommy Lee Jones, I just saw he has a new movie coming out with Jamie Foxx. It's like a courtroom drama about someone. I guess he's a owner of I think it's a funeral home or something, and
oh,
they're people are trying to take it away from him, so he hires Jamie Foxx as a lawyer. And it
huh,
looks interesting. I think it
right,
was at TIFF maybe. Yeah, I just saw from another guy I follow. I saw that it exists, so I was like, oh wow, Tommy Lee Jones back. So
right.
that's
That's
pretty
cool.
cool.
That's
I'm
great.
not sure when that comes out, but yeah, The Fugitive is really good, solid movie. I don't know why I forgot about that. That should have been in my honorable mentions. Yeah, it's kind of funny because the first time I saw it, or I should say, the second time I saw it, I didn't remember that I had seen it the first time, and then 10 minutes through, I'm like, this is really familiar, but I couldn't remember anything about what happened, so it was like I got to see it again for the first time.
That's cool.
So that was cool. Um, but this is definitely an excellent movie. I think this and Double Jeopardy are really good. Like if you're doing a double feature film, this is definitely one to pair with each other because they're both similarly toned. Tommy Lee Jones plays like a similar character of like not caring and trying to find out who does it. I don't know if the character progression is the same for him in both, but I do really like his character in both films, the two different people he plays. And of course, Harrison Ford is amazing as you're trying to discover with, like you said, a regular person, not a detective, not someone who normally has to do this,
Yeah,
trying to discover what happened to his wife.
right, right. Yeah, good stuff. All right, Josh, we're on to your number 2. What do you got?
My number two is very unexpected to me. it was a movie that I did not care for the first time I saw it. And I know you mentioned it earlier, and I know it's sci-fi, but Minority Report with Tom Cruise.
Nice.
So
Yes.
this one for me, like you said, it does still fit the mold of a law enforcement officer or someone trying to solve a crime. So
Hmm.
it's definitely still there. And I think just because of how blown away I was by it watching it this time, I was like, it's from honorable mentions right into the top five.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, I had it. I was trying to figure out what my fifth movie was going to be. So
Hmm.
initially, that this was like on the bottom, and then as I was like writing like stuff down about it, and I was like, wait a minute, why is this at number five? And so I fixed that.
Yes.
So now it's at number two. But yeah, so in this case, a little different than your normal whodunit. The angle here is that a law enforcement captain is trying to solve a murder before it happens, except he's the perpetrator. And so, yeah, I don't know what was wrong with me the first time I saw this. This is a fantastic film. I forgot that Neil McDonough was in it. And
Hmm.
this movie's proof that he doesn't age. I think he just
Right.
turned 50 something recently or 53, and he looks almost the exact same. His
Right.
genes are fantastic. Um, it's a little weird for a Spielberg film for me because I think most of the ones I've seen of his are like more of the family friendly fare.
Hmm.
And I obviously just with like stuff like E.T. and Hook, like that's kind of like when people remember Spielberg, they probably think of Saving Private Ryan or his more family friendly stuff.
Right.
So, and even Saving Private Ryan doesn't have like sexual stuff.
Hmm.
So seeing some of that in this was a little jarring.
Yeah.
But aside from that, this movie is just phenomenal. Yeah, I love seeing films that lay breadcrumbs.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
you only see it after the fact or a second
Right.
time watching, obviously. But like going back through and now that I knew sort of what was going to happen, and obviously, I guess in this film you can see it beforehand because you do know that he's supposed to be the
Hmm.
criminal.
Hmm.
Um, but even certain things like with the explaining what Echo was and
Hmm.
explaining what or the scene where his son gets kidnapped at the pool, like those
Right.
two things were integral, I think, for later, especially the echoes part. Because if you get to the end and with the explanation, and you didn't know what echoes were until then, you'd be like, "Well, this feels so contrived that you just invented this conveniently for the end." But Spielberg puts it in beforehand. Same thing with the scene at the pool. That scene is
Yeah.
mainly about a son being kidnapped, but it
Hmm.
also doubles to show that he can hold his breath underwater,
Right.
which works later in the film.
Yeah.
So you're not going, how's he just sitting there so calmly holding his breath underwater? But because they said it before, and movies that
Hmm.
do that they just earn like another layer of respect for me when
Yeah.
they're able to put those little things in, almost kind of like sort of exposition, but
Hmm.
and they do it in a way where it's like just a natural part of the film, like they do here,
Right.
like Spielberg does here, is really cool. I I think this is some of Tom Cruise's best and worst acting. I'm not quite sure what. There's a couple shots like when he's being chased by Colin Farrell's character in the car manufacturing plant. And then like right when he's like which it was kind of cool. It had like a Star Wars Episode 2 vibes. But when the chair is about to be put on Tom Cruise and he kind of does the like it felt there was a couple shots where I was like just quick reactions that felt a little overacted, but
Right.
I know he's an amazing actor
Yeah.
and Spielberg is an amazing director, so I don't know what is up with those. And even Colin Farrell, like right after that, he's like eyeing Cruise and Cruise's character, and he's like what are we doing?
Right.
Why are you doing that? It was really weird. But aside from that, I
Yeah.
think it also had some of Cruise's best acting.
Hmm.
um, just like oh my gosh, especially the Miranda rights scene when
Hmm.
he gives that like that the whole conclusion here, the whole climax is or I should say the first ending of the film. It's just like three endings
Right.
to this movie. Um, is so emotional and so moving, and
Hmm.
just him giving the Miranda rights as he's going through everything with emotions like that was a really moving scene, and that was incredible acting. I also think the actress who played Agatha did an amazing job. Like I
Hmm.
forgot how much she was in this movie, I forgot how much she had to do in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and just playing that kind of a character
Mm-hmm.
and just her reactions were really good. The other thing that impressed me this time was the CGI. Like, because this is
Mm-hmm.
2002, so
Yep.
this is like just being able to do any of this. Like, Star
Yeah.
Wars Episode One just came out,
Right.
um, and I kind of like movies that are that don't have CGI, like The Thing
Mm.
in '82 or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was, and you're blown away by how they were able to accomplish that. I think in a similar way, films that are in the early stages of CGI are also impressive for what they're able to accomplish when it's done well. And obviously,
Yeah.
there's examples of that where like it's overused and it doesn't look good, doesn't hold up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But here, there is so much of it that is like visual effects and CGI, and
Mm-hmm.
almost all of it holds up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I especially wanted to point out the spiders. There's so much little cool technology stuff here, but even I don't know who was in charge of making the spiders, if that was like a puppetry team or if that was like all CGI. I don't know how they did it.
Mm.
I thought they did a really good job. Like it's just a little simple disc with three legs, and they
Yeah.
made it creepy and scary and
Right.
intimidating.
Right.
And how they moved and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another thing that really blew me away with this time. The cinematography as well
Mm.
was really, really well done. So yeah, great acting, engaging story. The direction is masterful. Williams' score, not the one I would think of as being a
Mm.
Williams score, but it
Mm-hmm.
definitely matched the tone and the
Yeah.
style and everything of what was happening really
Right.
well. And complicated sci-fi concepts are explained well
Mm-hmm.
to be easily grasped. Yeah, everything across the board, every checks every box, everything is just done phenomenally. And then of
Yeah.
course the mystery element is
Yeah.
because it's supposed to be his own crime and the way that they set up the premise and everything,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm supposed to kill this man and I have no idea who this man is.
Right.
And yeah,
Yes.
and so that whole angle and how we discover what he's trying to figure out, like, who is this man? Why am I going to kill him? And trying to run
Right.
away from his own teammates too, who are trying to catch him for doing for
Right.
that he's going to do it.
Right.
And just all the other layers there with some of the precog, some of the
Mm.
stuff that they do with the precogs that kind of just like all blends together really nicely. And yeah, so this is definitely one of my favorite Spielberg films now.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's up there for me too, way up near the top. I think our Tom Cruise podcast, we talked about this
Mm.
because it is one of my favorites of his. We may have talked about it on the Spielberg podcast as well. I'm not sure, but yeah, definitely up there with some of my favorites from those two guys, great filmmakers. And yeah, it's a unique
Mhm.
mystery film. It has a lot of different angles to it and different ways to look at it and different ways to look at the ending. There's all kinds of fan theories about, is that a dream sequence? Is it really happening? It seems a little too happy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Is the moment when he gets locked up, is that the end of the movie and the rest is just in his head, or we don't know. So there's
Huh.
all kinds of different theories out there that I think are fun to think about,
Yeah.
because it is a darker film, like you're saying, for Spielberg, but it still has his kind of happy ending that he typically gives his characters. So it kind of works against it maybe a little bit in some people's minds. But no, the cinematography you mentioned, the lighting, I love the way they lit the movie. A lot of shadows, a lot of harsh lighting when lighting does come
Mm.
in. Just has a really unique look to it. And Williams' score is definitely underrated. I feel like it, like you're saying,
Mhm.
just fits the tone so well. Williams himself is a big fan of noir, and so he kind of wanted
Oh.
to pay homage to some of his favorite noir scores and things like that. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
very well done, very well done. Great selection. Okay, on to my number two. My number two is 2022's The Batman. The Batman
Nice.
made it onto the list. We're recording this on Sunday. Yesterday was Batman Day. So I got to rewatch this on Batman Day, which was a lot of fun. I
Nice.
think it's like the eighth or ninth time I've seen this film. It's just
Oh,
one of my
wow.
favorites from last year. I saw it, I think, at least three times in theaters. Then, as
Mm.
soon as it was on 4K, I bought it and watched it a number of times since. It's just incredible. It's Matt Reeves' take on the character. He's the guy behind Cloverfield, Let Me In, Dawn and War. The Planet of the Apes. So he's a director that's got a good resume, writer and
Oh
director.
yeah.
And this one, Batman must solve multiple murders by the serial killer called the Riddler. And so this is a take on both Batman and Riddler that we haven't seen on screen before. It's a younger Batman. He's in his second year of crime fighting. This is loosely inspired by a few Batman comics. One is called Year One, another one is called Ego, and the other one is called The Long Halloween. So all those he kind of drew inspiration from various aspects of those comics, and it's just got a great look and feel to it. I really like Gotham City here. It feels very different from any American city, right? Like in Dark Knight, we have Chicago basically, right? And then, in other movies like, the original Superman, it's like it's Metropolis, but it's actually New York City, So I like here that they really created their own city, very much felt like its own unique place. The Gothic architecture mixed with, modernized stuff as well. It's just really, really cool. It feels like a real place, and it has a great sense of atmosphere to it. Through solving this kind of mystery of this serial killer who's out killing all these high profile elected officials, the mayor, the DA, all these characters, Batman also discovers what happens to his parents. So it's kind of a double mystery. It's a layered film in that,
Oh yeah, you're right.
you're really following him chasing down Riddler and all these murders that he's committing now, but you find out later on what exactly happened to Bruce's parents. So it's not a Batman film where we get his origin story. We've had that in like 3 other movies, right? So we don't need that anymore. But we are getting kind of an expanded version of his origin, really, because typically they don't go very deep into what happened to his parents. It's usually just some random guy on the street. But here they really dive into it. And there's this whole vast conspiracy going on in Gotham City between organized crime and the politicians and the police force and all this stuff. So it's a really kind of deep movie, a lot going on with it, a lot of characters, the big film. It's 3 hours long, and so a lot going on here. But to me, it never feels long. It always flies by. I always get so wrapped up in it. The movie takes place over the course of 1 week, which I discovered while watching it last night. If you do the math, it starts on October 31st, ends on November 6th. And so I thought that was interesting to kind of work that out in my head. Matt Reeves, when he was being interviewed about this movie, why did you want to do a Batman movie? There have been so many Batman movies. Who would want to take on this character after, guys like Zack Snyder and Chris Nolan have taken him on and created these iconic portrayals? And he said for him, it was all about perspective. He really wanted a Batman movie that was kind of all in his POV. Almost the entire film, we're with Batman. We're walking in his shoes. And Greg Fraser's cinematography is just on another level for me in this movie, beyond what we've seen in other Batman movies. He's doing stuff that's so specific, like the POV stuff, like very shallow depth of field on a lot of the shots that he's using. They shot it digitally, but they used very old lenses from like the 1970s, lenses movies like French Connection was shot on, they used for these films. So it's really a unique looking movie. It has that grainy kind of filmic quality to it, but yet it's very sharp and detailed as well. So I just like the kind of innovation there. From the opening shot, we get the idea that this is going to be a different kind of Batman movie. It's a POV shot from Riddler's point of view, looking in on this family, the mayor, that he's about to go and murder. And so it just kind of creates the sense of unease about it up front. Definitely keeps that throughout. But like I said, most of the time we are with Batman, and we get the sense what it's like being him in the city. We get, what the criminal element feels about Batman, this fear that comes over them, that opening sequences as he's narrating, and we get the bat signal up in the sky. It's so well done. It's so well thought out. It's one of these movies you can tell the filmmakers involved really went deep into thinking about how to do a unique Batman movie. There've been so many. What's a fresh way in? I think they really accomplished that here, beyond what I was expecting. Robert Pattinson, I feel, totally is committed here to the role of Bruce Wayne, a Batman. Very reclusive Bruce Wayne. He's again younger, so he's got a lot of angst. He's got a lot of anger. He's taking out his anger on these criminals. He's calling himself Vengeance. all these things, and he just really makes you buy into it and believe it. Zoe Kravitz is a great casting as Catwoman. I really enjoyed her performance, her storyline. She really has her own storyline that intersects with Batman's, and
Hmm.
they kind of get tangled up in this whole thing, and you find out how she's connected to it. Really interesting. Paul Dano is incredible as Riddler. I found him to be extremely scary, yet very unassuming when he's kind of unmasked.
Hmm.
It's just a great kind of balance he struck. Very intelligent as well. Jeffrey Wright, I think, is a great version of Gordon. I really like the relationship he has with Batman. I really feel their relationship, like they're friends who've been doing this a while. Even though they've only been doing it for 2 years, you can tell they've solved many cases together, and the way that they work together, the way that they talk and interact, it's really good, really well done.
There's that
John,
natural trust.
yeah, exactly. They very much have that. John Turturro, I really like as Falcone. Andy Serkis, I think, is a huge standout as Alfred, even though he doesn't have a
Mm.
lot of screen time. What he does with that is really impactful, and that relationship is another highlight of the movie. And then for me, Colin Farrell, it just doesn't get better than that performance in any Batman movie, really. It might be like the best comic book movie performance. He's just totally lost in that character. You do not see
Oh my
him at
gosh.
all. The makeup is so real. I don't know how they achieved that, but man, he just totally transforms in this movie physically. His voice, his mannerisms. He's the perfect penguin because he's got the kind of humorous aspect to him, yet he
Hmm.
can be kind of terrifying at times as well. And so it
Yeah.
really works well. That car chase with him and Batman is an all-time great car chase.
Mm.
So I could go on and on. Michael Giacchino's score, of course, I have to mention, it's
Yes.
phenomenal. I feel like this is just a very ambitious Batman movie. The
Mm.
length of it, the story they're telling, the amount of characters, where we are in the timeline of Batman's life. I love that it's so character focused, that he really goes through a transformation. He starts off as vengeance, striking fear, and by the end, he becomes the symbol of hope for the city. He really becomes less a vigilante out to enact, his own brand of justice on criminals, to really becoming a selfless hero who saves these people out of this flood. And there's all kinds of biblical allegory here with the flood of the city. Riddler's trying to play God and wash away the sin of the city, and Batman goes into the water and comes out, and it's kind of like a baptism he has. He's kind of reborn as this new hero. So all those visual elements I like as well. That just puts it on another level for me. And yeah, I think this is my favorite of all the Batman movies. I really do.
Oh
The
wow.
more I watch it, it just has a bigger impact every time. So
Mm.
yeah, that's my number two, the Batman.
Yeah. I didn't realize until you mentioned it about the biblical aspects. Like that is really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I didn't even think about that at all. Like, because it seems so obvious now that you say it. But like, yeah, like with the Riddler trying to play God and like that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like for me, this movie is like, I don't know, it's like you said, it is so well done, it's so artfully made on every level. It's hard. I feel like even though, like, if you're comparing it to other Batman films, even though it's Batman and Batman, I feel like this is almost apples to oranges.
Right.
Trying
I
to
get what you
compare it to
mean.
other Batman films.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so different.
Hmm.
Like for me personally, just on like Batman films, for Batman Day yesterday, I did like did a list of them,
Yeah.
but ranking them. So it's a little lower on the list for me, but I don't know. I feel like that's because it's hard to compare it. Like
Yeah.
I don't like putting it on the list. I don't like putting it lower because it is such an amazing film.
Right.
So I don't know. It's hard to compare to the other Batmans and be like, oh, which one, which one's better as a Batman film or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. And like you said, Colin Farrell's performance here is. I don't even did he get nominated for this? Because he should have if he
No.
didn't.
No. I
Like
think
what
the
was the
makeup
Academy
might
doing?
have, but I don't think he did.
Okay, well he should have
Yeah, I
because you're
agree.
right. He completely. If you didn't know that was him, you would not know it was him. And not just for the
Hmm.
makeup, but like even knowing it's him, it's hard to be like, okay, where is he in there?
Right.
Because like you said, his voice and everything, his mannerisms, everything is totally changed for this role. And usually he does play more of a stoic, calm character usually, and
Right.
this is totally different from that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Compare
yeah,
this
and
to
just
Minority Report, like you were just talking about. It's like
yes,
night and day. It's like,
so different.
yeah.
Um, yeah, completely different. He just gives a fantastic performance, and Yeah, I didn't really realize it until you said it right in the beginning too with the Riddler, like a different take on the Riddler and the murders. Like this is probably the scariest Riddler and the most destructive Riddler we've seen because usually it's been either like a gag like Jim Carrey, or it's something like in the I didn't watch all of it. I had stopped watching Gotham because it was just so much
Mm,
content. But
yeah,
his character is just kind of like the nerdy, unassuming, well, nobody likes me
right.
character. Whereas like Paul Dano's performance, I think he's underrated as an
He
actor.
is.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like you said, it balances both that timidity and that like curiosity, especially in that dialogue he has
Yeah.
with Batman
Yeah.
in the jail is really engaging. I am excited to see where on earth they take this with the
Yes.
second one.
Me too. Very much looking forward to it. Okay, this is it, guys. We are at our number one picks, our favorite mystery movies of all time. Josh, give me your number one.
My number one is going to be Knives Out.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was from the moment I watched it, at least from the second viewing. It just immediately one of my favorite movies ever. Um, the writing is fantastic. The acting, the cast, like you mentioned earlier, is fantastic. There's nothing not done well in this movie. Just even the production design with the house and everything is fantastic. I like that. There's another one where Ryan Johnson, I think, wrote and directed it, and there's another one where you have breadcrumbs throughout that you can pick up on later and be like, oh, I see how that carries over to the end. Excellent writing on across the board. All the acting is amazing. He combines Christie and Hitchcock here to give the twist in a different way. So you think you know, but you don't know. And that's so good. And especially in the conclusion, it's just really moving and emotional. And you really having sat with Ana de Armas's character the whole time, her and Daniel Craig's character, you really just understand both of them as characters and what each of them have been through and are going through. Especially Ana de Armas's character with the way the twist is and like the reveal of like you're not a bad person, and just like all that is really moving. Chris Evans gives a great performance here, probably second only to the Gray Man for dislikable characters. He does that pretty well, as well as playing the opposite spectrum of Captain America, which is a really likable character.
Right.
Someone like Don Johnson's character didn't really stand out to me that much at first, but
Hmm.
like going back and rewatching it, like you really see like each of them, even Tony Collette and like some of the other ones that are more, I guess, more smaller roles,
Hmm.
that each of them have not only their moment in the movie, but that you see that they are really excellent actors in and of
Yeah.
themselves, and
Right.
you see that there's more. It's more than just like a face value performance.
Yep.
And of course, Thrombey, played by the great Christopher Plummer. Um, yeah, there's not a bad thing I could say about this film. Well, okay, there's the only bad thing I could say about this film is some of the one of the things they mentioned content wise. But other than that, it's a phenomenal film on every level, and the sleuthery, obviously, Daniel Craig's character here as the sleuth is like right up there with Sherlock, not only on I don't know. I think just the way like making him like that have that Kentucky drawl and whatever is first of all you're not expecting it because it's Daniel Craig and he has an amazing English accent and he's you know coming off of James Bond or whatever he's like oh prim and proper and then you have this which he's still with the proper just with the southern accent which is like on the opposite end of like the spectrum there but he just does such an excellent job with it and the writing is so well done it's so witty.
Hmm.
um I think it's up there. I've Gravity's Rainbow up there. I haven't read it yet,
Hmm.
but they mentioned that, and I was like surprised to learn that was a real book.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, it's just really cool. And Nathan Johnson's score here is excellent.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
the piano and the it just totally adds to the mystery element in all the best ways without being parody-esque. Like I feel
Yes.
like he could have handed up maybe a little more, and it could have
Right.
been like could have come across as like parody with the certain mystery themes and the way the score lays out. But he
Right.
doesn't do that here, and it's
Right.
just really really phenomenal. My all-time favorite. mystery film that I've seen countless times. Well, not countless. I can count them, but I've seen it several times.
Right. Great pick. Excellent. Yeah, had to mention that in the honorable mentions because yeah, it was definitely considered. My wife and I have seen it a number of times since it was released, and yeah, we're big Rian Johnson fans, and we'll talk about him more in the future, I'm sure, as he continues to make more Benoit Blanc mysteries, and maybe his Star Wars trilogy eventually happens, hopefully one day. I
Oh,
don't know.
hopefully,
We'll
hopefully.
see. All right, gonna jump into my final pick, my number one. It is the Japanese classic Rashomon. This is an Akira Kurosawa film made in 1950. It is, this director I just adore. He's one of my favorites ever. Seven Samurai, Throne of Blood, Yojimbo. He's known for his samurai films. He's also done dramas like High and Low or Akiru, which are excellent. Rashomon is very different, especially for its time. The film follows several different characters as we get each of their perspectives on a murder. So you have all these different flashbacks happening, each from different perspectives. Each flashback is a little bit different from the last. They're trying to get to the bottom of which one is the truth. So we're dealing with that kind of theme. What is the truth? The nature of truth, lies, that kind of thing. Very intriguing, very engaging throughout. It's a pretty quick runtime. It's only 88 minutes. So
Oh, wow.
they get it done very efficiently, but it's very effective. And so it has great visual storytelling, great writing, wonderful performances. Toshiro Mifune acted in several Kurosawa films, one of the most popular actors of his day, and he just does a great job here. This is kind of an iconic film for a number of reasons. Again, just the whole premise, the whole plot, the whole idea, the concept is very different, again, for its time. It's got this great Criterion edition, which just looks really good too. They did a great job cleaning it up and making it look as clear and as good as it can. Great music in there as well. Got an honorary Oscar at the 24th Oscar ceremony. I don't know. I guess they probably didn't have a foreign films category at that point, and that's why they gave it an honorary Oscar. But yeah, just a great film. I don't want to talk too much about it to give anything away, but just go see it. There's actually a term used, which they call the Rashomon effect, which is contradictory interpretations of the same event. So there's literally like a
Oh, wow.
legal term named after this movie now,
Oh, it's so cool.
which is pretty neat. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. Again, it's an older movie. It's all black and white, but it is one that has definitely stood the test of time, and one that I have not rewatched in a while, but I definitely would like to soon. But that definitely came to mind when I thought of mystery movies. So that's it, folks. That is it. Have you seen Rashomon?
No, I haven't.
Gotcha.
There's several Kurosawa films
Yeah.
that I just need to start. I don't think I've seen any of his films, and I need to. And I know they're all like up there,
Right.
so I just need to
Yeah.
sit down and watch it.
Yeah. Our guy George Lucas was a huge fan. That's why I got into it.
Yes,
I heard Lucas was a big
and that
Kurosawa guy.
too.
Yeah.
More
So
reason why I should have seen one of these by now.
right. All right, folks. Well, that's it for our mystery movies list. That's our top 5 of all time. Thanks, Josh, for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
All right. All of our links are in the description below. Links to Josh's channel, links to our social media accounts. Be sure to follow us there. Make sure you give us a like, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. We just surpassed 300 subscribers, which was awesome. Pretty incredible that we got here in just over a year. So thank you all for listening, for watching. Your support means so much to us. And we'll see you next time right here on The Real World.